Now, there are things that I want to talk about. Nothing too crazy, but something very noticeable came across my desk the last couple of days. I want to know if anyone's paying attention, all right, and if anyone caught this. I think it's very curious or peculiar. Give me a second. I'm over here checking everything. All right, I'm live on Facebook. Doing good. All right, pretty nice and clear. So that means YouTube's up. Rumble should be delayed. We should be good. I can hear myself. We're good to go. All right. Now, did anyone hear about Mr. William Rothschild burning in his house this past weekend? Yay, nay, maybe. Put it in the comments if you heard about it, right? So I was looking into it. I haven't gone too deep, but I did want to talk to everybody about this. I thought it was interesting. Okay. Um, Before we get into it, now I always start off with, how does this go into the deep state? So this is what I want to say. When strange occurrences happen or strange deaths happen, we we can overlook them as just the grim reaper or coincidence, right? It's just, hey, life happens, people pass away, people's houses burn down. Sometimes you just run into a bad day and you lose your life. It's very random, and sometimes, yeah, that's the answer to it. But in some situations, with we could call it with elites and power and struggle, right? Sometimes they just come up missing for like random weird reasons, or they pass away for those reasons, right? Random and weird. Here's an example, right? Today's incident in the news, the CEO Brian Thomas of UnitedHealth, right? And he was at a convention in New York outside his Hilton hotel when he was gunned down by some masked assailant. Um, Whatever happened. So as I'm going through this, I read it and I understand that, hey, random occurrences happen, things happen, stuff happens. There's really nothing you can do about it. But when we talk about the deep state, things don't just happen. People mysteriously die, like the time Michael Jackson mysteriously had an overdose. All right, or give me some people in my comments. Like when we're involving the deep state, there's always some shadowy story behind their death. Like you hear the story, it just doesn't make sense. Pac and Biggie story never made sense, right? Easy story doesn't make sense. Like the Fandango owner, the former Fandango owner who jumped out of the window this year, story doesn't make sense. All right, not saying it has to make sense for it to happen. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the power elite, the struggle, the deep state, the tactics, we understand that sometimes people come up missing. Sometimes people pass away from strange coincidences or strange outcomes. I'm not saying anything. I just want to talk about it with y'all. Why do you want to talk about it is the issue, right? The reason I want to talk about it is this. This is my reasoning. A Rothschild making the news for burning in his own home, sure, it could happen, but it's a Rothschild. So what happens? We got to talk about it. I'm gonna talk about it. All right. Let me find my little screen. There we go. Come on over. Member of prominent family member found dead after Laurel Canyon house fire. Rothschild. Okay. This is a Rothschild. We're gonna go over this. A lot of this I just looked into. I thought it was very interesting. It's a Rothschild. Thought I'd cover it. Hear me out. Let's hear about this. Right? Say the neighbors found a man, just one of the points, found him in Laurel Canyon home that burned on Wednesday. It was William Rothschild, a member of the prominent banking family. So they admit that. They talk about it. It's the Rothschild. You can't hide it. Right? Says he was found dead after his Laurel Canyon house was badly damaged in a fire Wednesday afternoon. And like I said, he was a member of the banking family. Sorry. The body discovered at the Lookout Mountain Avenue property was William Rothschild. Three people told the Times on Thursday. Magazine seen at the property was addressed to W.M.D. Rothschild or William Mayer Rothschild. Okay, when you read this, right, does this not give off like you're really making it known it's a Rothschild, right? You want to let us know. This is propaganda. This is how people are reading. You know what I'm saying? So when you're reading this, read how they word this whole article. Okay. The Rothschilds, a sprawling Jewish family, originated from Frankfurt, Germany, long dominated Europe banking, with its English and French branches playing major roles in the finance and politics. Most notably during the 18th and 19th centuries, at one point, the Rothschilds were widely considered to have amassed the largest private fortune on earth. Some hell of reporting this week, huh? I mean, just bare bones. How often do you hear about the Rothschilds being written like that in the media? See, again, in this rabbit hole, in this deep state thing, how you read the media is really based on your perception of the world, like how you view. It may not be the perspective, the worldview, broad view, but your perception of the world will be steered in this article. So if you don't know anything about the Rothschilds, you would have just learned that a lot of people talking about the same conspiracy, it's in your newspaper now, right? Okay. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying, just hear me out. Today, the family is spread across the globe and maintains interests in financial service, energy, real estate, and other sectors, while several of its prominent members have become high society philanthropic fixtures in London, Paris, and beyond. The Rothschild fortune, now divided among many heirs, is said to be worth billions of dollars. Take this with a grain of salt. This is LA Times, too. So it's like the LA Times telling on themselves. I mean, I'm sure the Rothschilds own a piece of the LA Times, so it would be nothing different to find out that, you know, the Rothschilds are writing some piece, makes them look good, but it's kind of telling on themselves right now. For a group that's always been fairly quiet, it's a little open. It's just based with facts in there. You know, if you just said they weren't Jewish or they were Jewish in any other tone, it'd be listed as anti Semitic, sure. But LA Times writes it really well, which makes me wonder because, I mean, sure, the Rothschilds own the LA Times. Wouldn't that make sense? They got like a piece of it somehow. They own everything. They literally just admitted that. They pretty much own a little bit of everything. So, just saying, the burned out residence, described by a real estate listing service as an 825 square foot two-bedroom property worth about 1 million, seemingly had little opulence befitting a descendant of the world's most powerful bankers. The Hollywood Hills home was bedraggled and sooty a day after the blaze, which according to the Los Angeles Fire Department was put out by 45 firefighters more than 30 minutes around 8 p.m. That's just news reporting, right? Rothschild's gone. William Rothschild. Who would have thought? Right? So they're saying they saw huge flames, this and that. People called the police. Now, I heard something previous to reading this article, but through the little holes of Telegram and YouTube and other little outlets and just reading around, a lot of people were saying that his house was barricaded from the inside. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying they're saying I heard that his home is barricaded from the inside. So I find that one questionable. I find it extremely questionable. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying for a Rothschild to, house to burn down, I feel like, that's not a thing that happens often to him. Just my opinion. Is the deep state trying to say something? Is someone being removed? I couldn't tell you that. This gentleman, for all I know, pure speculation, could honestly be a policyholder, irrevocable trust. It could be anything. We know the Rothschild dynasty is well known throughout the world for being the banking family of the world. They own banks. They own real estate. They own teams. They own shit, every company in the world via BlackRock and Vanguard. This is not unheard of. All right. So what I'm saying isn't fake. What I'm saying right now is that we have a family member gone of the elite Rothschild family in LA. I'm not saying his house didn't catch on fire. I'm saying it's just a strange time for his house to catch on fire. And I mean, there's no perfect time for a house to catch on fire, but still a Rothschild. You would think that that's not how it happens. So, me personally, I think someone maybe got moved out the way. My opinion only. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm saying it's a Rothschild. Like he was comfortable. So most of this article just explains, how he lost his vintage cars and his painting and his house. Sure, millions of dollars lost, his life lost. Again, I see the comments and I see, someone saying he was sacrificed. That's a cold family to be in. That's cold blooded. But I mean, shit, it's regular families sacrificing each other for little to nothing. So the fact that if you told me the Rothschild sacrificed maybe a third cousin they weren't really fond of, sure. I mean, we've seen all the old movies of royalty, dynasty. People would knock off their family for moves, for money, for positions of power. This is not unheard of. So I don't want to get on here and seem like, damn, man, you're just talking about this man's death. Yes and no, but there's so much more to this question. There's so much more going on. Like today's topics were why all of a sudden are random people just passing away that their stories are questionable. I got another questionable story today. I'm gonna be honest with you, and we've heard questionable stories like this. Okay, now Rothschild's gone. Family moves on. I'm pretty sure his piece of the pie or trust or whatever it was, whatever there was there for him, it moves on to the next person. Nothing's missed on that side of the family. Is that cold blooded? Kind of. Fairly, yes. But that's kind of how this deep state thing works, man. When they want to move you out the way, they get you out the way. They don't miss. And someone in my on my other page was like, "Hey, you're talking about Trump, man. If he didn't win president, he'd be going to prison." I'm like, "No, you wouldn't." I had to explain it then. Like, nope. People really think that there's one side to this. No, people, it's two. It's three, four sides to this, guys. It ain't what you think, and it's getting hot out here. Random occurrences, people passing away that we know have some type of influence, and when you read the story, it's questionable. All right, I got another one. I got Brian Thomas today, and this is today's news. CEO of United Healthcare was gunned down outside his hotel. All right, now, yes, this is the New York Post. Take it with a grain of salt. I could go bounce to all sides if you want to. I have no problem with that, just to let you know, read full story. But New York Times has the main story. So it's just one of those situations that this is what we got. Now listen to this story, right? United Healthcare CEO Brian Thomas fatally shot outside his Hilton hotel in Midtown, possibly targeted attack. Okay? Now, I got a couple talking points. I'm going to read this to you. I'm going to get into this, all right? Couple talking points. So, CEO of the United Health's insurance division was gunned down Wednesday morning outside his Hilton hotel in Midtown when police say it was a targeted attack. Understand what it means to be targeted. They know what he looks like. They waited for him. This man, if a normal criminal will not shoot this man because he don't know this man. If you stood him outside, if you put him in a police lineup right now without me talking about this, it was like, who is the CEO of United Health Insurance? You wouldn't know. None of us would know, right? Okay, that's what we mean when we say targeted. I want to explain this, and I hope you catch where I'm going. Brian Thomas, 50, was at the hotel, at 6:46 a.m. arriving early for a conference when a masked man allegedly waiting for him fired at him repeatedly and fled eastbound on 6th Ave, police source told the Post, right? Thompson was hit in the chest. He was rushed in critical condition to Mount Sinai Hospital where he was later pronounced dead. All right, this is the gentleman right here. See if I can make that a little bit larger for you. Uh, nope, that's not it. Nope, wrong one. Hold on. Got my button switched. But this is the gentleman. This is outside. This is where it happened. Now, look at what the gentleman's wearing. He's wearing dark clothes, tan book bag, dark shoes, holding gun, rode off on bike. Look at his posture. Look at his stance. You see it yourself, right? Okay. It says Andrew Whitty, CEO parent of UnitedHealth Group, said the firm had been holding its Investor Day conference at the hotel on Wednesday, which Thompson was attending. The conference was abruptly called off due to a serious medical situation to one of its team members. Officials said no arrests have been made yet and the investigation is ongoing. The suspect was described as a white male wearing a cream colored jacket, black face mask, and black and white sneakers. I'm assuming they're saying cream colored just because it's in the light, but clearly that's black, right? Officials said there was no arrests have been made yet. The suspect was described as a white male. I already read that. Suspect had been spotted near the vicinity of the hotel, hanging around. And this is Brian Thomas. You would have never seen, if you'd have seen this man in real life, you would have not known it was him. So for me, like I said, targeted. They knew who he is. Whoop de woo. Why is this man being targeted? Who knows, right? But he was at a conference. Someone mysteriously got sick, and he had to leave the conference. Got caught outside slipping, right? Perfect setup at a Hilton hotel. That's all I'm saying, right? Says sources said the shooter wasn't a guest at the hotel, but it's unclear if he had any other business there. When the suspect spotted Thompson, he began to fire from a distance. Not saying, how far he was, but maybe walking out the door. Striking him multiple times, police say. Masked man fled on Ziegfeld alleyway and hopped on a bike to escape. Because that's the easy way to get around in New York, because you could disappear on a bike. Now, couple things. So he struck him multiple times. Clearly, the man had the ability to shoot. Not saying he had a bad shot, not saying he had a good shot. What I'm saying is he still hit him. Not bad. Thompson, who worked with UnitedHealth for the last 20 years, took the role of CEO in 2021 and was based in Minnetonka, Minnesota. There's a part that I want to read out to you. Brian's experienced relationships make him well suited to help United Healthcare for consumers, physicians, employers, governments, partners, leading, and all that good stuff. He previously served as the company's head of government programs, including Medicare and retirement. Now, I read the whole thing to get to that one little point. He previously served as the company's head of government programs. I'm not saying that that means that someone's looking for him, but I'm saying he is the head of the government programs of Medicare and retirement. I mean, at this current rate, is there smoke? Maybe. Maybe there's smoke with the Rothschild. No pun intended, but I mean, people die every day for random reasons, but these ain't exactly random reasons. And to target Brian Thomas out of nowhere for someone who just may be living a seemingly normal life, we don't know him. He could have a gambling problem, sure, but the deep state moves everywhere, and there are pawns on the chessboard everywhere. There are different moving pieces. There's always someone there who knows something or knows somebody, got too close, and end up losing his life. I'm not saying he was going to be a whistleblower. It's very possible this gentleman's a whistleblower, but guess what happens when you want to tell the truth? It's typically what happens to you if you find some corruption in your own system. I don't know why this man died, but I know somebody was looking for him, so that tells me enough by itself that clearly this man may be involved in more than he knew, or he did know and didn't take it serious. So at the deep state, this is one of the things that we're noticing. Maybe loose ends are being cleaned up for the Democrats. We can play that game. We could play the game of, maybe he was going to blow the whistle on the Democrats for the Republicans. Sure, could play that game too. What I'm saying is he knew something and he was going to say something, and to pick him out of a crowd randomly doesn't make sense. That's why they assume it's targeted. Because who would actually know the United Healthcare CEO? Like, know what he looks like. So again, deep state possibility. Pretty strong possibility. And the shooter had a good shot. I'm not saying it was a young guy. I'm just saying it could have been a Glock switch. It could have been a straight bullet. Who all knows? But we'll say that this person doesn't miss. People miss up close. If you ever go to the gun range, a handgun is not easy to shoot people. I don't want to sit here and act like it is. It's not. Sure, you got people who know how to use guns properly, but we've also seen our own police force in America, and clearly self-explanatory. Everybody does not have a good shot, close or far away. So from a distance to hit this man in the chest repeatedly, impressive. Most people can't shoot in a shooting range with nobody around, with people walking around. He did it with this man coming out the door or wherever he was at. They didn't say he was staying there. Just the guy knew he was there. How would you know that guy is at that hotel? Who's looking for him? Again, New York. So much goes on in New York. My whole point about tonight, not tonight, excuse me, I'm so used to doing night shows. My point about today's show is this. The deep state has its tentacles in everything. And when something happens mysteriously, that's like when the Cash App dude passed away. That's like when the crypto dude passed away in the Bahamas. When people start passing away mysteriously, this is when you should start paying more and more attention. It's not the random it happened deaths. Like car crashes happen. I'm not saying people don't die in car crashes. It happens all the time, but you can fabricate a car crash. You can make a person wreck. I mean, that goes back to Princess Diana, right? You can set up a situation outside and it can look like nothing's happening to regular people, but to the eyes that are watching, it's a whole operation going on. Like you've seen it in the movies, right? They're watching in the movies with the binoculars, I mean in the windows, and like the dude's outside on his mic in his ear, like we're walking up on him now. Walk up on him, simulate a whole incident. Sure. Movie magic, yeah. Real life situation, numerous times. Numerous times. Like what's so far fetched about these situations that we all mention with the deep state and these conspiracies? Where does it fall on deaf ears at when we say, yo, they're knocking people off for just wanting to speak the truth? So where do we go from there? Because everyone that quote unquote, we said, hey, he was coming out, he was saying this, he was telling this, and then they pass away, and then people would be like, well, car crashes happen. Come on. Like, how many more mysterious, strange deaths within the corporate world linked to government are we gonna like push away and act like it's just random? We know Kennedy wasn't random. Like, it takes organization to do these things. It takes money too. With the deep state, they have plenty of that. We can sit here and watch a whole Marvel movie and understand Hydra infiltrating in the movie, right? But for some reason, no one wants to think that they're doing that in real life to us. Like, that's the strangest thing in the world. And I'm not saying the movie makes it real. I'm saying the movie is telling us that this is something that's a possibility. because it's already happened. I'm not saying it's Hydra. I'm just saying there's clearly some organization pulling more strings than we understand. Is that fair to say? Like we can share all the memes of the fake psyops and the stories, but uh, we all see it. My point, like I said, my last show is to bring this awareness. So if I can pull out these little articles at a just kind of, hey, this is a questionable story, or hey, if you look into this, hey, what are we supposed to say then? Because I mean, I assure you, the Diddy files are just as bad as the Epstein files. I'm telling you, the Weinstein files are just as bad as the Epstein files. Like, how many more files and how many more stories do we need to keep coming out for everybody to finally catch on and be like, huh, guys, I think we have a problem. It would more or less maybe take it being put in your face, right? Like, you have to see it, and still then you may not believe it. They can show you something right now, and you don't know how to take it. A lot of people say, hey, they tried to assassinate Trump. Okay, this is going back into this mysterious death situation. They don't miss. If they don't miss. If they can get Brian Thomas random ass at his own convention on a situation and a Rothschild mysteriously just poof goes into flames, sure. Sure, somebody was sure the driver that day or the person who rode up on Diana was just that good that day, better than the training of the driver that day. I know her driver had like defensive training and stuff like that. Like he's a driver for the elite, for the rich. Like you got to have some type of defensive training or defensive driving, combat driving, whatever you call it, tactical driving. I'm not stupid. Like the more and more these happen, the more and more we sit here and be like, is it real or not? We should at this point assume that mysterious deaths happen, sure, but when they happen in the way they do, we should know better. Should know better. Malcolm X, two people that were supposed to be linked to his death or were the shooters were exonerated a couple years back. They're out of prison and they're suing the U.S. government right now. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying it is true, but it's funny though with Martin Luther King, same thing happened then. And there's a difference between those two. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King are not the same people. One belonged to the deep state, one was did not. So, if those two people had the same mysterious style death, why is it so hard 50, 60 years later to realize that they're still doing the same thing? If you get out of pocket or you don't scratch the right back, you may get knocked off at your own convention. It's a very huge possibility. So, the mysteriousness of these deaths should make you wonder how this is going to play out for the rest of the 4 years. And why do I keep mentioning it? Because Trump is the president. I gotta cover the Republicans now, right? Right. So if they've already taken two opportunities at this man, and we know they don't miss, we know they don't miss. Third time a charm? Just a prediction? So here's my prediction. I'm gonna give you one. I'm gonna give you one. He goes into office in January, right? January 20th, I believe. I think that's when they're doing their inauguration. Say middle of 2026. Because we got to let this Iran thing play out. Like right now, the whole article of Kash Patel being hacked by Iran is laughable too. He's gonna get smeared in the media just like everyone else is right now. But I'm telling you right now, if the Simpsons are correct, Because since we're playing that game of deep state conspiracies, Simpsons are correct, and Trump doesn't make it. That's what I saw in that episode. I think we've all seen the same episode. So another mysterious situation is going to transpire, and then is that going to be the one that makes the bubble pop, and then they push the executive order? See how I can go anywhere with this? I personally think they're playing us right now. I think they are trying to clean up a mess. And again, I talked about this the last show with mysterious deaths and certain foundations in Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, excuse me, Obama Foundation, all these other presidents. They all have stories. Entertainers have the same stories. Mysterious deaths linked to Diddy too. Nobody said nothing. So how many more do we have to keep watching and we can pick up on to where we actually really, I don't even know what to call this no more. Like stand up for ourselves. Oh, like get the board off our backs. I don't know what to call this anymore. What I understand is that there's clearly something going on with this whole deep state idea. Like even before Trump was using the word deep state, we would say like the shadowy government, the 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 overlords, the big people behind, the men in black is what they called them back in my kid, when I was younger. You don't want the men in black to come get you. The idea that there's someone in the background pulling strings has always been there. And here we are in 2024, and I don't want to shit on anyone's awakening or woke moment, but I'm saying that if this is your awakening moment, man, we are fucking behind right now because it's people out here really thinking this is just all random. Like it's just NPC, GTA, Grand Theft Auto. We're just all walking around in a simulation. Clear, we're just walking around and this is life. Uh, I'm a very hopeful person. I talk about this stuff because it's noticeable, and I think that if we don't catch it in a good in a healthy spot, we're all going to be in trouble in some form, and it really may not be us. It may be more of our children. That's why I say if we stood up now and we learn to build communities again, and we learn to work for ourselves again, and we learn to eat better, and I know this is a crap shot, right? I get it. Asking the world to change on a whim of some evil puppet cabal. Sure, that's a whim. But it's some truth to having community. It's some truth to having some standards to yourself and morals and being able to articulate those things without being pushed and guided in the directions you didn't even know you were being pushed in. I'm saying that all this could be fixed and moved on from, or at least we could start helping ourselves if we had community. If we were able to have these hard conversations that I talk about every time I get on here, that way we can move past it and understand how to fight it or at least survive longer. Like we don't have to eat the poison food that we're eating, but we don't grow our own food anymore. So how could we not eat the poison? Like they're making lab grown meat and people are going to eat it if they're not already eating it. Think about that. They give you vegan food made of chemicals. If we could make our own food, then there would be no problem. They couldn't do it. If we had our own cattle and our own livestock, and I'm sure that's asking for a lot. I get it. That's not everyone's dream. But I'm saying if we had more of that, I feel like there would be less of the poisoning because we would control our own food source naturally, like they have been doing for hundreds and thousands of years. If we do not wise up, the movies and the depictions and the predictive programming that they've showed us what a future could look like for us isn't far off. It's not actually far off. We're actually closer than you think we are. These things that are happening are not for the faint of heart, not for the weak-minded. If you don't believe it, that is okay, because the same story that we're talking about is still in the Bible. So if you're going to pick a story, you're going to pick one regardless. In this world that we live in, nothing is what it seems. Nothing is how it sounds. Nothing is what it looks like. Sure, in your world, in your perception, in your view, it looks totally normal to you. But if you step away and step out of it and start looking at it from an honest eye, you will begin to notice the problem. And the problem isn't so much the people, because the people really don't control anything. If you think about it, they say that we can eradicate racism. We can, but we're not the ones pumping it down everyone's throat 24/7 through the media. They're saying, like, they'll tell you, you can get healthy, but you can go eat McDonald's too. You actually can't do both. It's not healthy. McDonald's is, I mean, not just Mickey D's, all fast food. It's, we all get guilty. We eat it every now and then, but I'm saying certain things you got to stop. And if you don't stop, they're going to keep going. It's like when you look at the baby crying, throwing a tantrum, what do? I'm going to let the baby cry a little bit and show them that you can't just get your way. Well, we may have to do that with our own leadership. And to be honest with you, the Republicans are just as guilty as the Democrats. And I'm not going to sit here and act like it because Trump is in office now. No. I will give him some credit for doing things. Like I gave credit to Biden for the one, two minute things he actually got accomplished. But that trickle down effect does not woo me. Just because his trickle down effect looks better than the Dems trickle down effect does not woo me or change my status on how I feel about all of them. They're the same thing. We very much so could be getting played. Politics is like theater for world people, for worldly viewed people, like people who think they're smart. It's still theater. These folks out here putting on a show for us, man. And when we eat it up, I, to some extent, I try to assume that they're really doing something out there, but it's hard to actually believe it. Like, if I just don't believe like Netanyahu is the thought the thinker that he is out there in Israel. I just don't believe it. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Macron's that leader that France needs. Don't think Trudeau's any good. Like, if you really look at them, they're all like characters. They're all good looking people who did well with marketing, tested well with viewership. You can tell that's all it is. Who tests better with viewership? Who's going to raise the most money? And who do the people, the popular vote, care for? That's all it's really boiling down to. And if you look at everybody, we know Trump tests well with viewers. He was on The Apprentice, he was in movies. Rappers rapped about him. Everyone knows Donald Trump. Donald Trump helped Michael Jackson during his court dealings back in the day in his court cases. Like, it's not a secret about who this man is. It is a secret as to what this man really does in his free time. And people are like, what do you care about his free time? Same that I cared about Obama's free time and Bush's free time and all their free times. What do they do together when we're not looking? And sure, that's not my business. That's no one's business. I don't want anyone to know what I'm doing when no one's looking. I'm just because I'm just hanging out. I like my privacy, sure. But with elites and these kind of people in the deep state, I always point back to 2020 when they put everybody on lockdown. Always remember they were still partying, still going through the rituals, still going through the sacrifices like nothing had happened. So when we talk about the deep state and how and these deaths and Trump, it's all tied together. But what I want y'all to understand is that it's the same side. Just because Trump is in office doesn't nothing has changed. They're not fixing it. You're gonna hire the deep state to stop the deep state, is what I hear. Is what I'm really getting right now. The people he's hiring still have some ties to Democrats. They still have some ties to Israel. They still have some ties to some shady underdealing somewhere. They got a history somewhere. And people are like, well, not all of them. That's what they said about Obama. And then he got in. And then it took a couple years, and all y'all were like, oh my God, he didn't even do anything. No shit. You knew that within year 3. Most of us. So my whole premise of this is nothing is changing. They're not going to change anything. They're just going to a new system. He's not fighting the deep state. For God's sakes, look at the Bolshevik conflict. They're going to give you the leader. That leader's going to lead you straight into the fire. Black people should have learned this by now already. To be honest, everyone should have learned it already because everyone's been walked to the slaughter. I don't care what color you are. You have all been subjected to the same psyop. You see that in my screen? Where's my finger at? There we are. We're all in this psyop together. We're all going through something separate but together, but dividing us, but they're doing it. It's called social engineering. Psyop is a dirty word. Psychological operations. Social engineering. That's what it really is. Social engineering. It's showing you that they can do things, they can move in ways that we can't, they can touch people in ways that we can't, they can get rid of you in ways that we can't. They instill the fear in us, and we sit here and we're paralyzed sometimes, and we're just like, oh my God, what do we do? Glad it's not me. We look around the world, and we say in America, damn, I'm glad that's not us. Until it is. And what are you going to say then? Because I don't feel bad for anyone voting. Voting is your right. I used to think voting mattered. And it does to a certain extent if you want to feel good about yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't mind voting if I actually believed in the people they were giving us. That's my problem. Like when you look at these people, how do you believe in something you know isn't for you? And then rationalize it with the lesser of two evils? It's an honest question. Because the more I cover these little stories and I read into stuff, and again, a lot of things can be speculation, but there's a lot of stories that aren't speculation and they're questionable. There's incidents in our timeline of our history that are questionable. Vegas was questionable. Uvalde was questionable. 9/11's questionable. Whole 2020 is questionable. The reason why they haven't put out the list from Diddy or Epstein, questionable. Pizzagate, also questionable. There's a lot of things that are questionable we've heard, and there are things that are not true that are questionable. Be honest, there's certain things that just aren't true. And then there are things that are true. And we have to decipher which one's which. And that's the hard part about this fifth generation warfare idea, information war, putting it out there. There's so much information, it's hard to decipher what's true. So I, myself, look around in these outlets. People say I don't read the news, it's stupid, it's all fluff. You are absolutely right. It's propaganda. But you catch some gems in there every now and then. You definitely do. So I always say that. Look, keep your eyes open and pay attention to this stuff. Sure, can you believe it? No, you have to go do your own research. But it's hard to do that because who wants to do that? People don't want to do their own research. This Brian Thomas story isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to get 12 hours of press today and it's gone tomorrow. Just like the story of the gentleman who beat out HP and his yacht went down. That dude, yeah, that story was covered for 3 days. Over. The other guy who died running in UK that was part of that court case, also gone. 2 days tops. No one talks about him anymore. It's moved on. So if there was some truth out there, it's too much fluff and information out there for anyone to decipher. So it would never get seen anyway. You're just lucky that people like me cover stuff like this, who can look at it and subjectively point it out and be like, yeah, that's probably them. It's a huge chance. It's hard. I get it, to sort through this information and to understand what's really going on, because understand people are taking their information from 4chan, 8chan, different media outlets, books, literature readings, dissertations from the internet, because you can go look up people's papers all over the internet and essays about stuff like this. I swear everyone's talking about something. So you can literally find out why these mysterious deaths are happening, or there's a connection. People do studies on these things. There's people out here doing natural studies on and research on these topics that we talk about, but it's not getting known. It's not getting seen. Why would it? Most stories disappear in 12 hours unless the news wants you to know about it. And then they put it out there and they run it for a week. When they hate Trump, they run it for a week. When Kamala fell on her face, they ran it for 2 days. When Trump falls on his face, Fox News runs it for 2 days. But when the Dems do something, Fox runs it for a whole week. That's just how the propaganda comes out and the media plays us, guys. So, sure, I'm not a specialist. I just read news articles to you. Very questionable news articles, but news articles. There's some truth to this. There's something we don't know. Clearly, Brian Thomas did something or took someone's money. They waited on him to come out of the house. I mean, out of the hotel, excuse me. After a mysterious illness that stopped the conference from happening and went on about his day at the Hilton Hotel in New York. Excuse me. William Rothschild just happened to pass away. Hey, house caught on fire. Stuff happens. I get it. But stuff just doesn't happen either in certain places like New York and LA. Things can happen all the time. We've heard plenty of stories of people disappearing and getting knocked off for whatever means possible. It's not anything new. I swear it's not. It's not. It wouldn't be the first time a family member knocked off another family member for money. It's not the first time. It won't be the first time a CEO gets put down for overstepping his boundaries or becoming a whistleblower. Axe Boeing, they killed two of them. Not a coincidence, man. Like, think about that. Boeing had the same incident. Two people testified, whistleblowers, two of them gone. Where's Boeing? I'm just saying, man. It's really obvious sometimes, and we have to stop acting like it's not. And this isn't to the people in the community. You guys know I'm not talking to y'all sometimes, right? You guys know this is a very broad show. And for my people that are new, I would hope you come on here and you're like, I'm gonna give this gentleman an opportunity because he's just a handsome guy. And I would appreciate that. And you hear me out. And then maybe I get through to you and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna go back and look into this case. I'm gonna go back and look into this. And that's hopeful wishing. I'm an optimist. Being optimistic. I still like to think that the human race has some hope. We can salvage the human race. It's gonna be hard. We're fucking fried right now. But I still think that the human race has a chance. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So, somewhere I think my show is gonna help somebody and they're gonna be like, you know what? This guy's really out here trying to like enlighten us and tell us the truth. and do all this extra, right? And they go look it up, and maybe we can save our grandchildren from this shit show that it's becoming, because maybe our grandparents thought that maybe by the time our grandchildren were there, it would be in a better place. And let me tell you, that motherfucker's on fire right now. Dumpster fire. It just depends, man. It's us. There's no one coming to save us. It's us saving each other. The human race has to save the human race. Ain't no one coming on a knight in shining armor with an orange tan and little whopper hands. The deep state is just not happening like that. I'm sorry. It won't be the deep state gonna stop the deep state from being the deep. You're just subbing out a dictator for a tyrant. It doesn't matter. The name don't matter. Skin tone don't matter. Only thing that matters is the money, the ability to control, and their influence. And I assure you, Trump's influence in America is great. If you wonder why he won, because he had the most influence. This is what this is about. They're trying to lead souls to hell. I think they're doing a fairly good job at it for all my Bible thumping Christians out there who believe that, this is the devil's playground. It's either real or it's not. You got to pick a side at this point, because I'm telling you now, he wants influence. And he gets influence, he can get the souls. And clearly, right now, I can pretty much tell you right now who has the influence in America. It ain't Kamala. It ain't Biden. It really ain't the Democrat Party. It's Trump. He's always had the influence. He had the influence on The Apprentice. Had the influence when he was in movies and Home Alone. He gets his little cameo in Home Alone too, right? Because that's where Macaulay Culkin was staying in Trump Towers, I believe. Trump, he owned the USFL, the UFL, the old football league. He's always had influence. I just feel like he's the perfect operative to lead us to the slaughter. Like, people gravitate towards him. He's friendly. He makes great jokes sometimes. Sometimes he says some abysmal shit, but people love it. People are willing to follow this man all the way to the depths of hell and go to war, stand by and all this stuff. And I just see it as dance, puppet, dance, puppet, dance. That's all I see. And it's working, because if you really watch it, and if you're really in this whole conspiracy thing, then you know for a fact they care about influence. And the people who have influence, if they don't use it for them in the right way, they die. I.e., Brian Thomas, who had influence. Clearly had some government dealings with Medicare and retirement. We've heard how many times they've botched that idea. I just I'm optimistic with us. I think we can still get out of this somehow, but we got to do better. We got to actually try. We got to actually, like, get up by our bootstraps. Start forming communities. Start living not off grid. I wouldn't even tell you to live off grid. Start growing your own food in your backyard. Start there. Start by homeschooling your kids if you have the opportunities to. Start there. Start by meeting your neighbors and trying to get out there and talk to people. I'm guilty of this too sometimes. I don't trust humans because I know what kind of traumas and issues we got as Americans. But I still got to get out there and talk to people. I take a whole risk doing this whole camera thing. Guys can get on the internet and butcher me right now. Be like, you hear this stupid shit? Tinfoil hat, black guy, probably a Trump supporter. I'm not. But we put ourselves out here for the greater good. Maybe this is me putting myself out for the greater good to cover some of these stories and like be like, hey, this is happening. There's things that you should be noticing. I can't cover everything in one show. I can't cover North Korea and South Korea right now. That one's been brewing. But it did, but there was something that caught my attention with that. We're gonna do another show on that. I don't know if you guys saw the device that they caught the man with, but it was a mobile broadband radio satellite phone or satellite communication device. I thought it was very interesting. We're gonna cover that one. I mean, it's a whole other conversation. But the mysterious deaths that go on, the mysterious incidents where there are shooters and then there's no real story. Vague story, shooter, good aim, decent aim, person dies, person's in a position of power. That's the end of it. 2 days. Cash App dude was the same way. The dude they found in the Bahamas and on the beach, little crypto guy, same exact way. Vague story. First off, the dude came out and said something, and then one next day they found him dead and gone, and that was it. He got a 2 day press run. William Rothschild, he got a 3 day press run because he's a Rothschild by the LA Times, which I'm sure is owned by Rothschilds, or at least one of their companies. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. Is it a factor? For Brian Thomas, depending on what he was doing and what he was trying to blow the whistle on, if that's what he was doing, just depends on what's going on behind the scenes. This is why we call it the deep state. Because this is why I talk to you, so I could cover this stuff and explain it to you as it's happening. And I don't get it right all the time. I think I'm wrong too, but I'm like 116 and 17 right now. There's more that I'm right about than I'm wrong about. Now, before I get off this show, I posted a video on my TikTok about UAPs, and I've been meaning to have this conversation again because when the UAP conversation comes up, I like to smack it back down with the blue beam. Let it be known to everybody that please do not fall for this. They have known for some time that it was coming out of the water. And I say they know because the Navy spends the most time in the water, and most of the reports and a lot of the new technology that has been used via the Navy intelligence side and the Navy's reports of UFOs coming out of the water in the ocean. All right. They have known this for some time. They even mentioned this in many movies. Abyss, Sphere, Aquaman. It was coming out of the water, or they want the water. It's in the Bible. It's a reason why Jesus walked on water. One of his greatest tricks to show the devil his strength was he was going to walk on water. Moses, not Moses, was it Moses? No, yeah, Moses parted the Red Sea, spread the water. Something about the water that's been there in biblical times and ancient times and all that. But this is a conversation we're going to cover real soon. Will it be this week? Maybe, maybe not. But we are going to have it because this whole UAP debate, me personally, I just think they're prepping us for Blue Beam because they've already known about interdimensional beings. That's what CERN is for. They already know this stuff. They already knew it came out of the water. They were detonating atomic bombs in the water in 1946. I shared a video on my page about that. And then in 47, you get the Roswell incident. And then it comes out of the sky and they essentially say, hey, it was a weather balloon, but no one knew where it came from. All the stuff that you've ever seen, they say UFOs come from the sky. We're going to cover a lot of that. Probably going to talk about that Senate committee hearing that was briefed with all of that information. We may watch it. It is something that I got to talk about with the deep state because Project Blue Beam is a real thing. And I've also told you that they're going to scare the holy hell out of us to get along so that they could push the one world order. That's a bag of cats. I know it sounds crazy, and it is what it is. Trust me on this when I say this. They are not above trying it at all. They are not above doing it. They are not above trying it. That's just what we're dealing with right now. So the UAP conversation, we're going to have that conversation real soon. But to close out my show, there is no such thing as a mysterious death among the elite. It will never be mysterious. If it's mysterious, it's because one of them were doing it in the dark. That's what made it mysterious. That's it. A lot of times we think it's random. It's not random. People die every day, and that's random. But a lot of them ain't random. And in that upper echelon of money, power, and control, if you don't do what these people say, they get rid of you. It's gone. Bamboos, gone. You're just a 2 day press front. All right. So take my words with a grain of salt. I appreciate you guys listening. Give me some feedback on how the day slot's working for you. It's pretty dope so far. I like it. My shows aren't as long, but it's not bad. I could do the day slot. We're just working on getting the traffic back up too. But I appreciate you guys tuning in, hanging out with me, and chopping it up with me, man. It's the deep state talk.